Hi, Lisa. Thank you for being here with me on the Revitalized Womanhood podcast. I'm so excited on so many levels because, listeners, I was just telling Lisa that along with, she doesn't know this yet, but along with budgets and being conscious about money and our relationship with money in my community, that she and I, from reading her book, have a lot in common and a lot to discuss. So thank you so much for being here with me.
I'm really, really grateful to be here. Finally, like having a conversation with you. We've been fangirling each other for a long time.
Yes, getting to see your face in my own screen. I'm so excited. And we're so close. I'm in St. George. You're in Vegas. We're so close. And you've got I'll circle back to this, but I think your next event is March, is it 18th? Mm-hmm. In Vegas. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I can figure this out. And it's the end of our kids' spring break. And so then I'm like, and my husband's going to be in Texas again hunting. So I was like, babe, I can come pick you up the night before you get home and I'll be in Vegas and we can have like, a hangout night. And he's like, no, I'm riding home with whatever. And I'm like, okay. So now I got to try something else. I got to reroute and try something else. So, but isn't it that what always happens when you're so close to something? It's like you think it would be like the easiest thing to get to, and it ends up being even harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally get that. But we're doing it virtual too. So even if you can pop on virtual, you can join in person, which I highly recommend, or you can be virtual.
Yeah, there is something about in person that you just cannot. And if you've never been to an event or something like this, ladies, do it. Search for something. If something's been interesting or pulling at your heartstrings or like your intuition saying, hey, like a cooking class or anything. We have all been cooped up long enough, right?
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah.
Flex those muscles to engage.
Because we're neighbors, we decided to have a retreat in June in St. George. So I know you're getting ready to travel the world again, but
in June I will be here until the end of June. When in June is it?
Ashley's here. It's somewhere early June.
Oh,
the weekend of the 10th. Yeah.
That's fun. I'll have to look that up. Yay. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, okay, sorry, my listeners are like, okay, ladies, enough of that. This is Lisa Chastain, and I wanted her to come on here and tell you all why you have such horrible relationships with money. But maybe you don't. But I'm more leaning on the side of yes, you do, because we're women, and that's just what happens, And we have a lot in common, so let's get to it. First of all, your book, Girl, Get Your Shit Together. Sorry, guys. I mean, this is usually a mommy-friendly, but if you ask anybody that's from Southern Utah, shit and damn aren't swear words.
Okay, that's really good to know.
So, sorry.
I grew up around a really LDS population, and I have a lot of LDS friends who read my book, and I just apologize, and they're like, it's okay. We just hide the book. $sign. We just hide it, yeah.
It's $sign. What do you mean it's $sign? It's not an S. Hit the fan. Just kidding. I love it. So you are a money coach, a mentor, and actually I love, love, love this part of your bio, unshakable optimist. Mm-hmm. Good for you. Mm-hmm. Good for you, because man, we need more of that in the world.
Especially
we
with
need more
money.
of that. Oh my gosh, we need more of that, especially with money, especially with everything. Mm-hmm. So I want to tell you, I don't know how much you know about me. I mean, I'm kind of an open book, so who knows how much everybody knows. But my relationship with money, like you, when I was young, because I'm from a family of 8 kids, mother stayed home, dad had the 9-to-5, which actually, ironically enough, he was a bank manager. He had a financial background, so he was in the banking for his whole career. But if I wanted something nice or nicer, like Gerbeau jeans, remember? Okay, you're younger than me, but Gerbeau jeans. If I wanted to go to Copper Rivet and get Gerbeau jeans, I had to earn the money, right? I couldn't have extras. I couldn't have things like that. And just like you said in there, how it was like we could pick a specific event or a specific sport to be part of because you just couldn't afford. I mean, hello, drill team or cheerleading, forget about that. That was like $5,000. Forget about that. That's just too much. So for me, I went out when I was back when you could go out and earn minimum wage. I think it was like $4 at the time, I want to say. Anyway, I was 14.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
No. And I worked at a retirement home in the kitchen, and I loved it. But anyway, that was where my journey began, with wanting to be able to have all the things that I couldn't have, and comparing myself to the people who did have those things, and hanging out with the women, the girls who had all those things. So trying to keep up with them. And that's where the vicious cycle started.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I totally relate to that. One of my best friends in high school family was very wealthy. And I just adored them. And I'll never forget the experience of going to a car dealership, because I think probably there wasn't even Craigslist back then, right? So it was the newspaper that I bought my first car with my dad. And I think it was maybe a $2,500 car. And we went to the car dealership, and I sat there all day with them, and she drove home in a brand new car. And I was like, what is this life? What is this life? Not jealous or anything, but totally foreign to me.
Yeah, that's my best friend. She got a Chevy Cavalier, and it had like the RAV Sport or whatever, the Rally Sport. That's what it said, was on the site. It said Rally Sport. Well, her name was Allie. And her parents changed the writing to Alley Sport. So yes, I am totally with you. Same memory. I get it. Well, so with that, both of us, and I won't tell my story because honestly, it is so similar to you, but starting with where you were at the roller skating rink or at the party planning place, right? Or what was it?
I was a party hostess at Crystal Palace Skating Center.
Classic skating. I remember classic skating.
Yes. And all the things. And also a part of my story that I may or may not, I don't remember exactly if I put it in the book, but what I realized since then is that I'm a twin. And I have a twin brother. And my parents knew they were pregnant. And it was in the 70s, right? So they didn't do ultrasounds back then. They did a sonogram. They got one heartbeat. And my brother was born. And then 4.5 minutes later, I was born. And the conversation in our household, not only was it like, there's not enough. My dad's a blue collar guy. He was a stagehand in the Union in Las Vegas. And our needs were always met, but we never had more than what our needs were. Didn't have new cars and that kind of thing. But very financially savvy parents. Tying it all back, though, to my own belief in conversation with money, what I believed is that I wasn't worthy of having what I want. And also I saw my entire childhood, my parents putting my brother's needs in front of me and what he wanted and his sports and us going to his sporting events and them pouring into him. But then when it came time for me to want to play the clarinet or want something for my sports, some of it they did for me, but begrudgingly. There was always a kickback for it. There was always a snide remark or negative energy around the things that I did have. And there was always, I don't know how it was in your household, but it was like, you should just be grateful for what you have. So that was my experience, my interpretation of money growing up. That's not even exactly how my parents would probably tell the story, but it's through that language and that, imprinting on us from very young years that we make up our own stories about what money is or isn't. And that was where, for me, all the drama came out in my 20s with credit card debt and finances and all the things. So that's where it stems from for me.
So I just had a question pop in my brain, and I don't even know if this is a possible thing, because I'm sitting here thinking, can I relate any of it back to that, like language of it in the home? Because it was never, I don't know that it was ever said that we can't afford things. I think it was just, we knew that mom was very careful with the budget, and we ate everything out of a garden. She homemade bread, everything. So I don't think it was ever anything that was just said. We just kind of understood. So for me, the question here, let me bring it back. The question is, is there a way to identify where it is? Like I saw in your book, you kind of work through with your clients this series of questions where you kind of just boom, 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 answer, and then why is this, and then why is this, and then why is this? And it kind of brings them back full circle to, So is that the process?
So having just gone through my own certification in neurolinguistics, I'm going through that program, this whole series this year. And the answer is yes. There is a way to go back into your own timeline in life to identify where certain beliefs come from. It doesn't have to be as direct as your parent telling you something. It can be an event that you experienced that then you interpreted for yourself, and they're deposited a belief. It doesn't even have to be direct language, like, no, you can't do that, or no, this is, if someone's having a direct conversation with you. But it could be as neutral as an event of your mom in your family always eating food that you grew or you created on your own. And then you, as a young child, without even knowing that you have this memory, experiencing the world, going out to eat and realizing or creating a belief that, well, we can't afford to go out and eat.
That's weird that you just said that, because you just identified it. You literally just identified it, and I didn't realize it, because when my grandma would come to town, my dad's mom, and she had money. She was the grandma that had money, right? And we would go to McDonald's and we would get Happy Meals and root beers. Mm-hmm. And we would never, we would never any other time get fast food. I mean, really, that was a big deal to go. There was 8 of us, that's a lot. And so that's so interesting.
I just got chills it was just like that. That's where you interpreted the world of money, that we don't have the money for this, so we do it other ways, and that it takes money to be able to go do certain things with, and again, it's not through direct conversation typically that those beliefs come from.
Yeah, caught, not taught, right? That's the big thing with child rearing. And you know what? I had a mindset coach on here. She's my dear friend, and she said something that was so poignant. And she said, my son has, in situations, given me, said, Mom, this happened and this is how it made me feel. And she's like, it's very hurtful as a mother because you don't realize that that's what happened, but this is their reality. Mm-hmm. This isn't my reality. My reality might be something totally different, but his reality, I have to respect. And even though it's hurtful sometimes, I have to respect that that's totally a separate, same incident happened, and it's 2 completely separate realities.
Yeah, it's all about your context filter and interpretation. This is a really good example also for someone who's wanting to take a glimpse or glimmer into their own money mindset. My experience growing up was the answer that we always got was, no, we don't have the money. Hey, I want to go do this. No, we don't have the money. I want to go out of town for this. No, we don't have the money. I want to go do this. No, you don't have the money. So that was where my work ethic came from. I was like, well, then I'm just going to go have to make it on my own. And I remember very vividly, I was standing in the kitchen when my son was 3 or 4 years old, telling him, no, Connor, we don't have the money. And I knew he had the money. I just didn't want to go do it, or it was a prioritization of time. And that became my racket. No, we don't have the money. No, we don't have the money. No, we don't have the money. And that once that clicked, I don't tell him that anymore. I'm much more intentional with my language, but that all came from what my parents used to say to us.
That makes me really scared about what I'm saying to my kids.
Right?
Now I'm super, I'm going to be hypersensitive about it now, because I don't think we say it in terms of we don't have the money. We say it in terms of, because I'm going to get, this is my 4th bullet point down, so I'm skipping ahead here. Going off cuff. But I interviewed Emily Frizella, and she was raised by an entrepreneurial father. So her brain was raised in the mindset of, which made me correlate that with my husband. My husband was raised in an entrepreneur. His dad opened Titan Stairs in Las Vegas. Okay. So yeah, he sold that and came here. And he was raised in that mindset. So now for me, that's so foreign to me. And actually I sat there in the interview thinking, what a disadvantage I was put at in the world of having your own business, being able to level up, because entrepreneurs know that you can do that. You can't, like, if you work for someone, like at the skating rink or whatever, you capped out, right? You never make more than what they say. Even a nurse, even whatever, you can somewhat raise, but an entrepreneur, they know that they can set the bar wherever they want. And so I related that to my kids. My husband now teaches them entrepreneurial ways of thinking. Like, okay, you have to have this amount of money in your checking account. You can't buy that toy. If you buy that toy, you only have this amount of money. Okay, so then you're going to have to save for the next one or whatever. He teaches them these concepts. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see, oh my gosh, I find myself saying this a lot. I'm so curious to see what crap they're going to throw back at me when they're older, right? Like, this is how you broke me, or, whatever. This is what made me this way. And I'm going to sit and say, I even took courses not to say that.
We can't help it.
It's just going to happen. It's fine. I'm okay with it. It's fine. They know what I am. Well, will you explain to my listeners, because when I just got to this in your book, I'm like, that's such an interesting thing. So what I just talked about goes into money beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Piggybacking on that exact point with parents, that it's not always parents. I have a lot of clients who weren't raised by their parents. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, I'll tie this all back, is that the two most influential people in your life when it comes to your money beliefs are your parents. And even if your parent or mom or dad aren't in your life, they still have the impact, because in the absence of having a parent, you made something up about that parent being there or not being there. That's pretty deep, profound. So you made something up about yourself, or you made something up about your parent in the absence of having open, honest conversation with the adults in your life. You made something up about that person. So the most influential people in your life are your parents, and that's where a lot of our beliefs come into play about money. And it's usually through the perception, not the actual experience of money. So you might have a parent, so you talked about your mom, who was very conscientious about money. My mom was too. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She ran the household finances. We were always on a very tight budget, always pinching pennies. And it was through my experience of my mom where I formed beliefs about money. My dad would say things like, money doesn't grow on trees. What does that really even mean, right? Like, of course it doesn't grow on trees. But because of how our parents are with money, we usually either go in the same direction as them or we go the opposite direction as them. So if you had a parent who was, for example, one of my clients whose father was an alcoholic and not responsible with money at all, she inherited, without even realizing, a lot of those beliefs about money and actions, the beliefs that form your actual behaviors, where money is, money comes in and out, or I can always go out and make more money, or, right? Like, because of how we experience our parents or the adults that raised us, are going to move in one way or another in correlation with that. So it's really important, if you wanted to shift your beliefs, that you become present with them, which is what I'm talking about in the book, is that we have these unconscious patterns that run in our lives. And a lot of us, if you take this statistic into consideration, 95% of our purchasing decisions are unconscious or in the subconscious. Gerald Zaltman did a study about this. It's a pretty prevalent study, but marketers get this too, is that our purchasing decisions are in the unconscious mind. Even when we say we want something different, we will behave according to our unconscious beliefs.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
So if we're not present to what those beliefs are, and if we don't have the opportunity to interrupt those patterns and shift them, we will repeat them unconsciously for the rest of our lives.
Okay, so just to put this in something totally dumb it down. Yeah. So how would I then become intentional about making sure I'm functioning on the 5% of my conscious, which is what they talk about in mindset work too, is 95% of your thinking is always subconscious. So how do you then start? Where's the first step? So is it figure out what your relationship is with money?
The first step is awareness. Taking the time intentionally to become aware of the patterns that you're running. And this is focused on finance. I'm a finance coach. So if you look at the patterns that you're running financially, creating awareness first and foremost of what are the beliefs that are perpetuating that behavior. If you don't have the results that you want, or you keep running patterns of credit card debt and all the things. And I will caution you, all of you listening to this takes work, and it takes work for an extended period of time. It's not just set a budget and forget it. It's a rest of your life kind of journey, because it's so ingrained in us. So that's the first step, is awareness. Become aware of the patterns. And the way that we do that in my world is, even if you did nothing new, because a lot of people want to, which is why New Year's resolutions fail, why budgets fail. Even if you wanted to set forward a new plan into motion without doing this work first, you'll sabotage yourself. So my first exercise with my clients is actually, we go back 90 days. And we have a tracker for this. And we say, if you really want to understand your patterns, go track your money for the last 90 days. And by looking at what's coming in, what's going out, and your spending activity, you'll be able to understand what your actual values are, because where your values are, they show up in your money. You might say that you value saving, but if you do a 90-day deep dive and you're not saving, you're going to see exactly where your money's going, which is where your unconscious patterns and your unconscious beliefs and your unconscious values are going.
Which credit card statements make it so easy for us now too, because it separates everything: gas, entertainment, food. So you can easily go to that and be like, my husband goes to Jimmy John's every day. Like, you're not saving, right?
You're not saving.
Yeah, you're not saving. So when this happened to us, it was the recession. We lost everything, and because we are in the building industry, and it was like, wow. A big wake-up call, and it's exactly that. So we started doing Dave Ramsey, and it is not a diet. It's not. No. It is a lifestyle. That is, I could not emphasize that more. What you just said is, it's forever, guys. Once you make a commitment to, this is my lifestyle, it's your lifestyle. It's not just for a minute. And honestly, it becomes addictive. It becomes something that's like, because you see what can come of it, right? And which brings me back to your spending habits. You can say don't spend until you're blue in the face, but until the psychology changes, which for us in our 20s was keeping up with the Joneses, was whatever. And even after, so up until the recession with us, it was that, to have the big truck, to have the fancy cars, and to have, we have such the similar cultures that until that happened, unless it had to happen, it had to happen for us. It had to happen and be hurt enough for me to be like, I don't give a crap what you think of my car. It's paid off, and I will never have a car payment again, right? Even just the oil changes just makes my skin crawl. Seriously. But okay, so analyze this for me. Okay. This is a fun one. My dad was the banker, right? And it was, he did have to talk about money. He had to talk about finances. He talked about, a lot of it was very general, and granted, I'm not taking anything away from him as a father, because I was an absent child. I was never home. So bless his heart, he did what he could. But it was very much like deposits, withdrawals. Okay, I get it. It's very basic, right? You have to balance your checkbook, deposits, withdrawals. That's it. So, but other than that, like when I would talk to him about, oh, my friends have this fancy this, and they have this and that. And he's like, yeah, and they're all financed, right?
They are.
But I didn't understand that. But I will never forget him saying that. is how much do they actually own? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he says, the bank owns that. The bank owns that. The bank owns that. But so in that, we never talked about money. It was kind of a faux pas, like in my family, my brothers and sisters. I would never walk up to one of my sisters and say, how much money do you make? Like, you just don't. But then I marry this man who was raised in family businesses, construction businesses. Like, they all talk to each other about everything, profits, loss, what we're making, what your paycheck is. And it, to this day, even after all of the things we've gone through, to this day, it makes my skin crawl. Like, especially when it's in front of my parents. Like, he'll start saying that he made X amount of money, and I'm like, like, shocking. Like, I can't believe you just did that. And for me to be 40 years old and 20 years of practicing talking about money, and it's okay. So the point I'm making is, it is okay to talk about money. It's actually healthy to talk about money. You should actually teach your kids to talk about money so that it doesn't become this stigma of, I cannot believe you just said that. Might as well have just said the F word, right? He brings, and I'm just like, oh.
That's right. So that's a great example of how that belief was solidified at a very young age for you. And every time someone challenges that belief, even though you're committed to operating from a new place, it hits up against that belief, and it's in your DNA. That's how powerful our brains are, right? Is that we absorb all of that before the age of 10. And that becomes an ingrained part of your belief system. And so I'm working with a chiropractor because here's the kicker. It's not just stored in our brains, it's stored in our body.
Okay, so explain
It's stored in your spine. Your spine is the record keeper of your life in your body. So when there's traumas, when there's beliefs, those are instilled into you. So it's literally, you have this belief and this experience, and it's ingrained into your body. And so when you go to challenge that or break it up, it's going to jolt you until you release it literally from your body. So that it's just another way of thinking about self-care and transformation and total transformation, is that in order to really transcend that barrier, those barriers that we all have, it's in the brain, it's in the body, it's in our emotions. We have to work on releasing those. One of the best ways to do that is through action. So you asked me, what do we do? Well, first it's creating awareness. And to your point, then it's about taking new action. So for you, Dave Ramsey really helped you take new action. And over time, you're transforming your relationship with money. But you can't, there are some ways you can actually erase those beliefs, but that's like another conversation for another day. You just have to be willing to work past those beliefs by creating awareness, and then ultimately shifting past them in the moment by recognizing, okay, this is a belief that I no longer hold true, but I'm still going to experience it and let it move on so I can have a new thing, a new relationship, a new result, whatever it is that you want. Or have conversation that you're committed to having new conversations about money. You have to challenge that belief and work past it to do that.
It's so interesting because money is money. I mean, that's what and we're talking about it in regards to like a relationship.
It is.
Right? It is a relationship that you've had with this like secret lover.
That's
because
right.
Everything you're talking about is mindset work. It's okay. You have to feel your emotions. You have to live in the emotion before you get past the emotion. Otherwise you're just burying it. So
it's almost never about money, Gina.
Yes.
It's almost never about money. We just make it about money because that's become the scapegoat in our lives.
That was literally my next. Why it says, why is a why so important? Because that's what I said when you couldn't have told me so now it's like, you think I'm going to go in and Joanna Gaines my front porch? You're dead wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to go to Costa Rica. It would cost me the exact same amount to do that to my front porch as it would to literally go to Vegas for the weekend, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. That's so stupid. So my why is not someone else's why, right? And if I hadn't broken that, if I hadn't been able to escape that, I would not be okay driving the 2008 SUV that I have or the 2010 car that I have, right? Because it would be like, oh, I'm not driving the fanciest car. What are they going to think of me?
I'm not worth it. People aren't going to like me. I don't fit in. I'm not lovable. It's those conversations. Lynn Twist, if you don't know who Lynn Twist is, I highly recommend her. She's someone that I aspire to someday be a friend. I'm saying this out loud.
Let's get her. Manifested. Lynn Twist.
She wrote a book called The Soul of Money. And she's worked with Aboriginal people all over the world. So she's really connected the value of money with people who in societies never valued money. And she's watched their journeys as they became more present to money, all the things. Anyway, what she has said is that it's the unquestioned answers in life that we need to pay more attention to. The unquestioned answers. Marketers have our number. Marketers know how our brains work. Marketers know how to help us along in the world. And it's all through this programming. So what you're talking about before you had your wake-up call, Oprah talks about wake-up calls. I had my own wake-up call, is that we're all living in this trance state in the world. Like zombies, that we have to live a certain way to be happy, and we have to look a certain way to be happy, and we have to, have certain things in our lives to be happy. And if we don't question those things, we'll have those bigger events to say, those wake-up calls to say, what's really important in life? What's really important in life? Because is it that we have to have all the things to be happy? Well, if someone wants that and that's their purpose and that's their why, go get it. But for a lot of us, that's not the case.
That's awesome. That's an awesome quote question.
Yeah.
So that takes me to explain when spending and saving are disproportionate, because you go from your aha moment, right? And now you're like, no, I'm saving. And then you're not, because you're unhappy, because you're not giving yourself any. It's like having goals and never rewarding yourself, or never celebrating a win. It's like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Well, now I've only lost 5 pounds. Oh, you've lost 5 pounds. Throw a party, like do something, celebrate, right? So when did I just explain that too well? I think you can explain it way better than me.
Where I see a lot of clients conflicted is that they know that they should save, because that is the predominant conversation in the money world. Save. And it's really more a matter of asking yourself, for what purpose am I saving? For what purpose am I saving? And so many people, the majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck because it was never modeled to them. Not even that they didn't necessarily learn. I get this question all the time about teaching money in school. Like, they should teach money in school. Yes, and if your parents aren't modeling what it looks like to actually save and help you understand for what purpose you need to save, people don't know how to retire because they were never taught or modeled how to do that. You have to take it a step further, and you can't just save for the sake of saving, which is where people create those patterns and cycles of putting money in savings and taking it out, putting money in savings and taking it out, because they're not clear on their purpose for savings in the first place. If you have a goal attached to that, we're saving to go to Costa Rica and we need this much money. I have 2 pots that I teach my clients how to fill: save to spend and save to save. And in both areas, you need to be clear on what the purpose of saving is for. Otherwise, you're just going to spend it.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. How much money do you need to become work optional lifestyle? Instead of calling it retirement, because most people don't really resonate with the word retirement anymore. But by when would you like to have a work optional lifestyle, and how much do you have to save in order to get there? For what purpose?
Because if you sit back, so breaking it down even more simply, because we've done this, we had to do it. You have to say, here's my lifestyle, right? Okay, so all your bills, whatever you have to pay, right? House, car, insurance, whatever. Okay, you've got your have tos. And then, like you said, your 90 days go through and it's like, well, if you've been living this way, yes, you can adjust that here and there. And I get that. And that's where you come into your save to spend, save to save. You can adjust that a little bit, but really you have an idea, you have a concept of what it's going to take. And then you have to think, okay, now I want to also every 3 months go on a vacation for a week. So that's going to cost me $1,000. I don't know, whatever. So now you've got this number. Okay. So you either figure that until times 12 times till you're 65 years old. Yeah. So you need what? $6 million to retire. So you have to have the lump sum of $6 million in the bank account by the time you retire. Or you have to get creative and have residual income or passive income or something that's working for you while you're not working. And that's where you come into all these where it's been such a trend. And maybe I'm out of it and it's probably still a trend. But when I was doing Pure Imperfection and we were traveling, everybody thought that I was Instagramming it and I was getting paid to do that. And I was not doing that. I was not. Actually, my husband said to me, I hate that account. Don't do this. I think I tried to be helpful getting us a hotel stay. And he's like, that was so annoying. You had to be doing things the whole time. I would rather just make memories. Don't even help. And I was like, okay.
That's the facade of social media. Nothing's really free. Nothing's really, everything takes work. Everything. Some kind of work. Someone to do it.
Oh my gosh. We were in New Zealand and it was well past him saying, don't do that. I hate that, And we ran into this cutest little couple from Utah. Actually, my husband knew her through an ex-girlfriend or something. So they're out there with their cute little daughter. Like, oh my gosh, what was she? Because this age, it's important. She was like 1, we'll say. And in New Zealand, and they were doing this. So they wanted to work through the year, and then during summers they could travel and be travel Instagrammers, bloggers, whatever they are. And oh my gosh, it was so eye-opening because they had been to similar places we had been, and we would watch on their feed and we're like, oh my gosh, that's so fun, whatever. And then they went to this one spot that we knew because we had just been there, and it was this beautiful water, the glacier water, whatever, in this waterfall. And you could not even stand out there. I don't know what they were, if they were these just huge gnats or black flies or what, but I mean swarms, worse than any mosquito, anything I have ever experienced in my life. We couldn't even stand out there. My husband was out there with the drone trying to fly it. And he's like, I have a video of my son slapping his legs, trying to help him. And we were just like, no. And then we see this post and they've got that baby sitting in the rocks.
Oh no.
Like they're having an enjoyable time next to this waterfall. And I was just like, that's horrible. That is so horrible. I know exactly what's happening right now. And it was such a good, and I already knew reality, Instagram versus reality. I already knew that, but to see that and to have just experienced that, I was like, wow. That was eye-opening.
Yeah. And that's what I always say this. I'm so privileged to work with people in the innermost workings of their finances. I'm privileged as a coach to have clients open up their financial lives and really the most intimate part of their lives to have conversations that really matter. And what I will say, having worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families, to your point with your dad and things being financed, is that things on the outside are almost never how they are on the inside. And that if you're living your life comparing yourself to other people's lives, I don't recommend it. And that's why your why really matters. You and your husband have solidified what's really important to you in raising your family. And now you're taking steps to move in that direction and do the things that you love. And it's still not perfect. And no one's life is. No matter what they have or don't have financially, no one's life is perfect. My best friend and I just had this conversation, and she works with ultra wealthy people. And it's just never what you think it's going to be. And so stop comparing yourself and get into a conscious conversation about what's really important to you in life. And I'm doing that right now at 43. What's really important, even as a money coach, having to shake off nerves and shake off things of like, gosh, if someone sees my house, what are they going to say? Well, at the end of the day, I don't really care because I love my house, and it's not a mansion, and that's okay because that's not what is important to us. And I think we need to have more of those conversations together.
Absolutely. I think you're right. People open up a very, very raw side because it is it's not a, what's the word? Like talking about sex, it's like a 4-letter word. It's, you start talking about it and it's like, this is so inappropriate and uncomfortable, right? And showing someone your deepest, darkest secrets. And so to that point, I have had a question circulating in my brain since I started this community. Because you've worked with so many women in this exact scenario, and the culture of, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go there. Anyway, what do you think? How do you help women get out of my husband runs the money, I have to ask for permission, I have to, I don't know if that's even fair, but anyway, I'm going to say it. It is fair. There you go. The man makes the money, so the wife isn't financially contributing, so her worth is not as valuable. So she has to ask permission for this money. That is her money. She is, my whole philosophy is when you get married, you make an agreement. Okay, if your agreement is husband goes to work, wife stays home. Fine. That's your agreement. I don't care. Whatever. Wife goes to work, husband stays home. Whatever. That's your agreement. You make that decision. Husband goes and gets paid a paycheck for it. Well, guess what? Wife, I think every couple when they first get married or before they get married should sit down and define childcare equals X amount per year. Maid services equals like laundry, cleaning the house, whatever, equals X amount a year. And guess what, honey? I guarantee you that stay-at-home mom makes double what the husband makes getting a paycheck at work.
Yeah.
If you break it all down. So how do you not combat, not battle this? Like, how do you help this? How do you...
Right. I like to stick with the facts because what you're speaking into is a lot about belief system. And for women, since the beginning of time, we have not been the breadwinners or the buffalo winners or the lion winners. Like we have not been the ones to go out and hunt.
Right. Exactly.
We have been the ones to create community and take care of everyone while the men are gone. So if you think about even like from thousands and thousands of years ago about how women have evolved, how that's transcended into the world of money today is that men earn and are owners of 90% of the world's wealth. And that's from hundreds of thousands of years of how people have evolved and how men have evolved is that and up 100 years ago, women finally got to vote. Awesome, right? And then we started getting jobs. And it wasn't until World War II in America that women became breadwinners. So that's not a very long history for women in the money game. So if men are 90% owners of the world's wealth, 65% of the world's wealth is worked by women, paid or unpaid, to your point. So even though we don't own it, we're working for it for that exact reason, because of the second shift or because of the homework or because of the way that we're contributing to the world, right? 85% of the world's wealth is spent by women. So if we bring all of that together,
Lisa, quiet, Lisa. I'm just going to edit that. No, just kidding. I'm with you. But you know what? Okay, to tie that together, does that not speak volumes for why women spend money? To find their value, to prove their worth, to show the woman down the street that she is worth this and my house is as good, if not better than yours, so I'm worthy of this. Mm-hmm. You just broke it down into percentages.
Facts. We have way more control than we think we do. And because of that, it's likely that there's a lot going on in the household based on belief systems. Oh, it's not my money. I hear this from women all the time. It's not my money. It sure is, because you're spending all of it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes. Woof. That's cool. That is a very interesting statistic. I may or may not tell my husband that. No, just kidding. I'm okay with it because I know who's spending the money in our family. I'm okay with it. Honey, I'm totally okay with that. That's really interesting.
I think that as women, we have more control than we say we do, and that we believe that we do, and that our value is so great on this planet that it's up to us now in the 21st century to lean in and take more ownership of the financial conversation.
And also, oh, sorry, go ahead. No, sorry.
It's overall, yes, we have been disempowered. And that's still happening in the world in so many ways, that women are disempowered, disenfranchised, and abused in so many different ways. In America, we have an opportunity to step forward as the leaders of our financial lives and get into the game and have conscious conversations. And by law, as married couples, yes, it is ours because there's a give and take for it.
I actually saw a post today that Go Men, she said, and it actually started backwards, like you thought she was going to make a different point, and then she turned it around, and it was like, why is it up to the husband to do this? Why is it his responsibility to do this? You take some responsibility. Either be very grateful and show him gratitude and help him, and love him and support him, whatever, or you take some of the pressure off of him. Why is it all of a sudden, and that's saying the same thing. So the same thing as what I just said, how women have no power, no control, is a different way of thinking is maybe men don't want all the control. Maybe they would love for someone to take that from them, but that's not in their nature. They're ingrained to protect, provide, preside, right? So plug, order man. And they're ingrained to do that. So they feel like that's their responsibility. That is their job as the husband, as the man, right? But because we are, like you said, these powerful women who are allowed to show our gifts and share our purpose and be powerful wives and mothers in the home, but also creating these amazing things. Oh my gosh, there are some powerhouse. When I started looking into people that I wanted to interview on this, there are some crazy, crazy powerhouse stay-at-home moms that are business owners out of Utah.
Yes.
Like, holy moly, I cannot believe it. And the majority of them were just a mom that needed something, wanted something very specific and couldn't find it. And they're like, I should probably do this. And they are huge now, like incredible women. So go girls.
That's right.
I love that.
So to tie this conversation all the way back to belief system, what a woman can do listening to this podcast who wants to have more of a role in her household financially is she has to challenge her own belief systems. And one of those beliefs, for example, could be, I'm not good with money. Or it could be, I'm not worthy. Or it could be, I'm not smart enough because I've never done it. And I break those, I give examples of what those beliefs could be in my book. So a woman has to be willing to challenge her own beliefs about herself and about money to lean into a conversation with her partner.
I actually really love that because that was the whole reason that Rick took over everything for us. Like, yeah, we both lost everything in the recession, but before that, I had $20,000 worth of debt, like credit card debt from my previous marriage, from my school, from my car, from my whatever. And I paid it off all on my own, but I actually sat down and wrote my resume because I don't know, I'm pretty shook up the system because I just posted all of the coaches online. Have you asked to see a resume? You know what I mean? Like, who's out here telling me what I need to do? This 20-year-old girl is telling me what anti-aging to buy, you know?
Yeah.
No
Yes.
thanks. No thanks, sweetheart.
Yes.
But so I sat down. I'm like, oh, I better put my money where my mouth is. And I sat down yesterday and I wrote my resume, right, for my community. And it's going to be the first page in my handbook, my Revitalized Sisterhood handbook, because it's like, you know what? This is where it started. But so I was writing it out, and out of my $20,000 of debt that I accumulated in the life before I met Rick and into it a little bit, I paid it off. I was so proud of myself. This is amazing. I did this. Well, he was paying a lot of bills while I was paying this off. So yes, but now my open growth mindset wife brain can say, thank you, honey. I see that you did that, but so that I could do this. But where was I going with that? Come back to me.
Beliefs, your own beliefs.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. So, but ever since that, it was, you are bad with money. You are bad with money. I do not trust you. I will handle our finances. So he did, he took that upon himself because he threw that at me. And so that has absolutely been ingrained in me, which is interesting because that's what you're saying is it creates that negative cycle that just repeats itself. So because he said that, I believed it, which I probably already believed it. You know, I knew I was getting debt and making payments and struggling to pay off this debt. And now that he's reinforced it, I am then always going to be bad with money. Always. Yes. Because I'm never going to believe I can be better.
And here's another belief, that debt is bad. That's a belief.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So then if it's a belief that debt is bad, then by the fact that you have debt, you're qualifying that as a bad thing and that you're bad with money because you're in debt. And if we shift the context filter, my friend Jessica Weaver and I just had this conversation on her podcast. Wealthy people use debt as leverage. A lot of people use debt as leverage. They'll take out debt to buy a company or do whatever. From that context, it's not bad. But as a consumer, it is. So we have to really challenge our own context filters when it comes to money too, to see where we're operating from, because that perpetuates the shame game. And I'm wrong and I'm bad and all the things. Just be intentional.
So because I understand what that is now, because I am dealing in that side of things, right? Will you give me smaller scale examples for my listeners of what debt is good debt? We know what debt is good debt and be okay with that.
Sure. And I'll say, I'm not totally anti-debt as some experts are. Mm-hmm. And for example, if you look at return on investment, right? Some people may have bought a home in 2019 or 2018 or 17 while the home prices were still lower, and they may have mortgaged that property and then experienced the catapult that we had after COVID in real estate prices. And if you, let's say, mortgage that home for 5%, because mortgage interest rates weren't that high until this last year, you mortgaged it for 5 or 6%, and you made $200,000 on that home, and then you sold it, that's an insane return on investment. And real estate investors get this game. Some real estate people, there's different sides of the fence when it comes to investing and building portfolios. But if you're on the real estate side of building portfolios, a lot of real estate investors will say, take out a home equity line of credit on the equity of your home and go buy another home. Leverage yourself into wealth. Now, in 2008, that didn't work out so well for people because investing, there's always a risk, right? There's always a risk. That was bad. But for people who are hoarding cash, okay, so I digress. Let me finish this thought. So in terms of good debt, if you can take out $10,000 on a 0% credit card and put it into an investment and earn 10% and then pay that back, that's how you're learning how to leverage debt. Now, I don't recommend that for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. But there's a difference between leveraging debt to grow and to get a return on investment versus consumer debt right now, which is for a lot of credit cards at 20 or 30% interest annually. There's a big difference there. So is it good or bad? I don't know. I'm just saying that there's a difference.
Yeah. And be aware of what the difference, weigh the pros and cons.
Weigh the pros and cons. On the other side of things, just to like give another example of how money works and how you have to learn how the money game works, is that cash loses value over time. So if you're not doing something with your cash today, let's say you have $100,000 in the bank, it's going to be worth less in 10 years than it is today. So you have to know these things, right? Hoarding cash isn't always good either, because you're going to lose value on that dollar over time. So these are things that I've learned about money over time. And so I'm definitely not a proponent of qualifying something as good or bad. It's just more a matter of be aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yep. I love that. Thank you. So to wrap it up in a nice little tidy bow, but we've already talked about it. So I think it's going to just kick back to you gave me 1 and 2, I think, because I wanted to hear what are 3 to 5 actionable steps to freeing yourself, to enjoying, being able to enjoy your money, right? So, and I think, so would you say 1 and 2, 1 is awareness of patterns, 2, taking new action.
Audit yourself. Have the courage.
Oh, the 90-day.
Yeah. Have the courage. And then I would say number 4 is learn how to distinguish between fact and belief. With our beliefs come a lot of emotions. And a lot of people will end up avoiding conversations around money or avoiding their money altogether because of their beliefs and their emotions. And for a lot of my clients, if I just pull them out of that and we look at the fact, I had a couple, for example, who felt so broke, emotionally so broke. And when we looked at their 90-day tracker, when we had a conversation about fact, they're millionaires. They don't feel like millionaires because of their beliefs and their programming about money. If you want to unlock freedom, learn how to interpret the facts versus living in a storm of beliefs that are not serving you.
I love it. I have so much in my history of beliefs and facts. It's crazy. I have suitcases full of baggage.
Yes.
Suitcases.
We all do. We all do. And when we can understand and interpret the facts of our lives, we can probably give ourselves permission to be more free and have more fun.
Thank you. I love that so much. So in case you missed it, and I will put it in the show notes, we've got Lisa Chastain. Her podcast is Real Money Podcast. The book is Girl, Get Your Shit Together. And where else can they find you?
Instagram right now is at Savvy Money with Lisa. TikTok, Lisa Chastain. There's like a million Lisa Chastain, so search for Savvy Money with Lisa. Those are the best places to find me, or my website, lisachastain.com.
And I love that because then they get to see what you offer as far as your community, your university, your money university, and your live events, which I'm going to hop back on because I found the one for March 18th, but now I need to go look for the one for June because that's so fun. Yeah. I love that you're coming up here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here with me. And I really, really, really appreciate all of your insight into money because I think it's very important that we have a really good relationship with it because that's one of the foundational ways that we can have a full, happy life.
That's right. That's right. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.